So thrilled to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, I run a social media consulting firm in the San Francisco Bay Area. We help companies in the real estate space get smarter about how to use social media. I just published a book a few days ago, which is very exciting, so it's been a kind of a whirlwind week for us. But one of the things we want to talk about today is really how to get smarter about how to use social media. And so I'd like to start off with a story. Oh, and I've got a clicker right over here. Here we go. So I do a lot of traveling. I speak at a lot of different conferences all over the world. And I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with United Airlines. I'm sure we could all relate, right? I won't bring up anything that's happened recently, but so my story with United, I have a few stories, but one of my stories, a few years ago, I was on a flight from San Francisco. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was on a flight from San Francisco up to Toronto for a conference. And about 15 minutes into the flight, I heard the sound you never want to hear on an airplane, this terrible grumbling, just awful sound. And I fly a lot, so it takes a lot to rattle me. And after a minute or two, the pilot got on the line and said, "We're terribly sorry, we're experiencing slight engine trouble." I don't know if he said it just like that, but that's how I heard it. We need to turn around and land at SFO. And of course, all of us take out our phones and we're texting. And honestly, that was actually the good part of the story because we landed just fine. The problem really happened once we landed at SFO. So imagine, if you will, a plane full of people, a few hundred people, landing at a gate that did not expect us. So we landed at gate 74 or 75, get off the plane, and there's another few hundred people waiting for their flight. So in a very small area, there were hundreds of not so happy United customers. And after being at the airport for more than 6 hours that day, I actually never was able to get to Toronto that day. And as I headed home, I am a social media person, so I took to social media and sent United Airlines a tweet. And I guess not surprising, I didn't hear anything in return from United. But I did hear from somebody. From Virgin America. Have any of you flown Virgin America? It's a very cool way to fly. You just feel cooler. I think it's the purple lights, right? So Virgin America responded to my tweet, and they simply said, "Katie, we're so sorry you had such a bad experience flying. The next time you fly, we hope you'll fly with us." And I've since told that story probably hundreds of times, so they've gotten a lot of great PR out of that. But I share that story with you today because what I learned from that is that just because you aren't there doesn't mean the conversation isn't happening. And I hear this a lot in real estate. I'll hear things like, "Well, I don't know if my clients are really on Facebook, and they're definitely not on Snapchat." But if you're not there, it doesn't mean that conversation isn't happening. And it's really interesting how social media has evolved. It's not really the new shiny thing anymore. Facebook is nearly 15 years old, if you can believe it. Twitter's more than a decade old. Even Snapchat's 5 or 6 years old. And so we're sort of moving through a little bit of this maturity when it comes to social media. And social media has changed the way news is spread. We all know this, right? If you just look at the election cycle and everything that we see with news, I don't know about you, but one of the first things, whenever I go to Facebook, I feel like I'm seeing my news first from Facebook or Twitter versus anywhere else online. And this is a great example. So last year there was a protest in Charlotte. And that morning I was in San Francisco. I opened up my phone to Facebook. And one of the first things that I saw on Facebook on my feed was a notification saying, so-and-so and so-and-so are in Charlotte and they've been marked safe. They were marked safe, which is really exciting. I was like, great, they're safe. But it allowed me to also ask who wasn't safe that was in Charlotte. And this is what's called Facebook Safety Check, and it's a fairly new thing that they're doing where when something happens in the world, if you have friends that are living in that part of the world, you'll get a notification seeing who's checked in and marked themselves safe. And I sort of smiled to myself as I saw this notification and thought, wow, we've sure moved past cat videos on Facebook. It's really incredible how things are changing. You know, the Oscars. How many of you watched the Oscars earlier this year? Probably a lot of you. I was actually on a flight when the Oscars were going on, and I got to my hotel room, and I opened up my Facebook feed, and everybody was talking about, oh my gosh, can you believe what happened? Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. And so I had to find out what happened. Took to Twitter, found out what happened, that the wrong Best Picture was announced. But my favorite tweet that night was this tweet from Miss Universe. Have your people call our people. We know what to do. And I share that with you today because social media isn't just about posting every day and being really consistent, although consistency does count, and we'll talk about that today. It's also about context and being relevant in the moment. And this tweet has since been retweeted thousands of times. This is a picture of my two boys. I love that Cuba's a mother and father. We're up here on stage. I'm a mom. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, two boys. In fact, I just got a text from my husband this morning that my little guy has an ear infection. This always happens when I'm out of town, of course. But this is a picture from probably a few months ago. We were FaceTiming as I'm traveling. And I show this to you because, my kids are growing up in a world unlike anything we've experienced, right? They call us sort of the before and after generation, right? We knew what it was like before internet, before Facebook, and now we're living in the after. And I love seeing my kids when they're using an iPad because it's so intuitive to them, right? In fact, they don't quite understand why the TV doesn't work when they go up to it and try to swipe it. But change is hard, right? One of my favorite quotes, this is from Tony Robbins, and if you're tweeting, feel free to tweet this quote: change is inevitable, progress is optional. And a lot of times when it comes to social media, we get really frustrated because as soon as we figure it out, it changes, right? This is one of my favorite books, Who Moved My Cheese? Have any of you read this? It's an older book, maybe 20 years old, 15, 20 years old. It's a really great read, probably 90 or so pages, and it's about a little mouse whose cheese got moved. And we've all had our cheese moved, right? The last time the new iPhone came out, the last time there was a new update to social media. So one of the things I'm going to share with you today in our time together is the value of being intentional. When I look at the clients that we work with, the students who are part of our Get Social Smart Academy, the ones who are getting a lot of business from social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever it might be, the number one thing that they're doing is they're being really intentional. I always say stop the random acts of social media. If you're tweeting, that's another good tweetable. Stop the random acts of social media. Be really intentional. Now, part of social media is random, right? I arrived here today. I didn't expect to see Carrot Top in the back. That wasn't part of my plan, so of course I took a selfie, right? But you've got to be really intentional when it comes to social media because without a strategy, you're just throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks. It's we'll try this for a couple days. We'll see if this works. And that's not really a strategy. So my goal here today is to share with you a few tips and tools and strategies that you can take away as you go back to your offices later today and tomorrow and over the next few weeks that you can implement right away to take your business to the next level. Does that sound good? All right, awesome. So let's start and talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn's not as fun as Facebook. It's not as snazzy as Snapchat. But LinkedIn is one of the most important social media platforms. For a lot of agents, LinkedIn has become the set it and forget it network, where you set it up a long time ago and maybe you haven't done a whole lot with it since. But many times when someone's Googling you, one of the first things that comes up is your LinkedIn profile. So if your photo's out of date or there's very little information about you, there's the perception that you're not in business. So I want to share with you a few things in 2017 that you can do to make sure you're up to date when it comes to LinkedIn. Number one, have an updated photo, right? And this is not just for LinkedIn, but all of your social networks. There's nothing worse than meeting someone for the first time and their reaction is, oh, I didn't recognize you at all, right? I won't make you raise your hand, but it's important to have an updated photo every few years. Update your skills and expertise. You want to make sure you have on your LinkedIn profile more than the fact that you're just a realtor or a broker, but really this is a place to brag about yourself, your skills, your expertise. Many of you may not realize this, but you can also add relevant photos and videos. If you've got some great videos of properties that you've listed, some great photos with your clients, you can add those. Contact information. Don't be a secret agent. Make it easy for people to find you. Publish new content. A lot of you may not realize this, but you can actually publish content right within LinkedIn's platform. This allows you to really make your LinkedIn profile even more robust. You can publish great content about questions that you get asked all the time, and then share that content on your other social networks, and asking for recommendations as well. So on LinkedIn, you can get endorsements, right, which is just someone clicking a button and saying, yes, I'm endorsing you, or someone can actually leave you a recommendation. That social proof is so powerful. And I know in real estate there's lots of places that you could get reviewed, but there's something about LinkedIn because it's that professional network that's not just real estate focused. So a big tip I can give you is give to get. How do you get a lot of recommendations? You give. And the agents that we work with, one of the big things that they do to be really intentional is once a month, they think about who are the 1 or 2 people they can surprise and delight and leave them a recommendation. If you think about the tribe that you work with, right? Other agents, your lender, stagers, photographers, this whole team, a cast of characters is involved in just about every real estate transaction. So who can you give a recommendation to? And 9 times out of 10, when you do that, the response is, oh, that was so nice of you. I didn't expect that. And so often they will do that in return. Facebook. Facebook is still the #1 social media platform, nearly 2 billion users on Facebook. And Facebook is changing so quickly. A lot of times when I talk to agents, though, about Facebook, one of the things I'll hear is, Katie, on Facebook, I've got my personal life over here, and I've got my business life over here, and I kind of like it that way. I kind of want to keep it separate. But understand that it's not black or white, right? People work with you because of your experience and your expertise, but they connect with you because you're a mom and I'm a mom, because you love a great glass of wine and I love a great glass of wine, right? We connect over those things. So Facebook doesn't replace what already works. And I love that that was mentioned this morning, right? And it'll never replace this. It'll never replace the face-to-face. It'll never replace a phone call or a handwritten note. It only makes it better. So one of the things to think about when it comes to Facebook is mobile. Most people are accessing Facebook on a mobile device. Just a show of hands, how many of you have a Facebook personal profile? Raise your hand. Awesome. How many of you also have a Facebook business page? Great. How many of you are on Facebook right now? Okay, good. So one thing to think about with Facebook is your content thumb-stopping? Right? Thumb-stopping. Think about it. You're competing with best friends and moms and our friends and family, and 1 in 5 mobile minutes is actually spent on Facebook. Think about how you look at Facebook. For most of us, we look at Facebook throughout micro moments of our day. We're standing in line at Starbucks, we're sitting in the car waiting to pick up our kids, we're sitting in the middle of a conference. It's in between these moments of the day. And so when you think about what to post to Facebook, it's really about how can you create that thumb-stopping content. And again, it's not black or white. Who you are is your brand. So I'm a big believer, of course, in not just talking about business, talking about your listings, talking about your business, but really sharing who you are and what makes you different. Now, that doesn't mean you have to share what you had for breakfast today or every moment of your life, but really being intentional about sharing things and connecting with people on a personal level. One tip I'll give you, this is actually a personal story of mine. A few years ago, this is a picture of my husband and I. So a few years ago, my husband and I bought a house. And our story is that back in 2006, we bought our first house. And then, like a lot of Americans, we short sailed. So we were renters for many, many years. And so when it became time to buy our next house, we kind of felt like first-time home buyers all over again. And by this point, I had been teaching in the real estate industry for about 10 years or so. So I felt like, I got this, right? I know what's going on. And it almost shocked me how personal and emotional and stressful this whole process was. And I remember this moment clearly. This was the day we got our keys. This is the day we brought our kids to the house for the first time. And I remember handing our phone to our realtor saying, will you take our picture? And we put it up on Facebook. And this photo to date has gotten more likes and more comments than just about anything we have ever posted on Facebook. And I share this with you today because when you think about how can I talk about my business without talking about my business, this is one of the best ways to do it. It's to be able to celebrate and honor your clients because this does 2 things. Number one, it makes your clients feel great, right? Really celebrating that moment, whether it's they're popping a bottle of champagne, they're walking through the front door, they're standing by the sold sign. But it's also a great way to show that you're successful and that you love what you do without saying, hey, I'm number 1, call me today, right? It can be super, super effective. The challenge with Facebook, I'm sure a lot of you would agree, is that there's a lot of noise, right, on Facebook. I feel like sometimes when I go on my Facebook news feed, I'm standing on the side of the freeway and just watching cars whiz by. So I want to share with you a big tip for how to really minimize the noise, especially on your personal profile. And I'm going to talk about business pages in a minute. But on your personal profile on Facebook, there's a lot of noise. And one of the best things that you can do is organize your friends into lists. If you're taking notes, this is a great link to write down. If you go to facebook.com/bookmarks/lists, you can actually put all of your friends into specific lists. So you could create a family list. I've got a list of my college friends, my high school buddies. You can organize different lists. At a minimum, I'd recommend you create 2 lists, one being your clients. So these are people either you're working with right now or you've worked with in the past. Now, for some of you, you might say, well, I don't know if I want to connect with my clients. I don't know if they're on Facebook. Some of our clients obviously are private. Maybe they're not on social media. Obviously, it's a personal decision depending on who that client is. But generally speaking, I would bet probably 70 to 80% of the people you've worked with now or you've worked with in the past are on Facebook. So what I would recommend is not to necessarily think about, oh, who's everybody I've worked with over the last 20 years, but think about who have you worked with in the last 6 to 12 months. See if they're on Facebook and reach out to them personally. Send them a private message and say, hey, Susie, it was so great to work with you and John last year. I would love to keep in touch with you here on Facebook. You send them a friend request. Then they get put into a client list. These lists are private, by the way, so your clients are not going to know they're on a list. The second list are potential clients. So these are people you potentially might be working with over the next 6, 12, 18 months. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Once you've created these lists, instead of going on Facebook and seeing your 500 Facebook friends and the cat videos and somebody playing Candy Crush and your cousin you haven't seen in 10 years, and then, oh yeah, your clients are in there, instead of seeing that noise, you go right to your client list. And you'll see 10, 20, 30 people. And what you'll see are things like they're going on vacation next week, their husband just got a job promotion, they just went out to a great dinner last night, their kids are playing Little League, and then you take 2 or 3 minutes to like, comment, or interact with them. Now, don't click like on everything. Don't be creepy. Don't be that person. But take a few minutes to like or comment or interact, and then do the same thing with your potential client list. I've been doing this myself with our own clients for at least the past 5 or 6 years, and it makes a huge difference. And the reason why this is so important is that relationships are built with these small, tiny interactions over the course of time. Every like, every comment adds up, right? It's just like in real life when you run into someone for the first time and then you see them again at the grocery store and then you realize your kids go to the same school and then you become friends on Facebook. We build these relationships. So I can't talk about social media today without talking about the relationship piece of it, because isn't that what real estate's all about? I think every agent I've ever talked to has said, it's a relationship business. We've got to get belly to belly, face to face. And how do you make those experiences better? It's by being really intentional, and creating lists is one simple way to do that on your personal profile. Now let's talk about business pages for a second. For a lot of agents, their business pages become a little bit of a Facebook graveyard. And it's by no fault of the agent or broker. It's just that we get busy, right? And when you're managing multiple transactions or running an office, the last thing you're really thinking about is what should I post on my Facebook page today? But your Facebook business page can be a great source of referrals and leads when done right. Now, for those of you who raised your hand and said, yes, you have a business page, what you've probably noticed is when you post something to your business page, a very small percentage of the people who actually like your page actually see your content. Because Facebook knows that when you and I are on Facebook, we want to see our family and our friends, and if we happen to see an ad every now and then, we're okay with that. So how do you stand out from the crowd? A few things make a big difference. Consistency. Consistency wins. So often when I'm working with a client, one of the first things we do when I sit down with a brokerage is I do a social media audit. And the word audit is always a little scary, but I'm always looking at their social channels and how often they post and the content and all those important details. And usually what I see is this. I'll see a brokerage who posts one time on Monday, twice on Tuesday, nothing for 4 days, 5 times on Sunday, nothing for 3 days. And so that consistency makes a big difference, as well as the quality of content you're posting. A picture's worth 1,000 words. And so video and photos are hugely important. I love that you guys have the resource for Videolicious. That's one of my favorite tools, especially for creating video. You have some amazing tools in your toolbox, which is really exciting. We're going to share some of those here today. One thing that makes a difference when it comes to content is having what we call a content grid. Now, I realize you probably can't see everything on this slide, so don't try to write it all down. We do have a link here at the bottom of the screen. If you go to katielance.com/content grid, you can do it right on your phone if you're on your mobile device right now. Put your name and email in, and this will get emailed to you right away. We created this a few years ago because we found most agents and brokers would just get really stuck when it came with what to post to Facebook. So what you're looking at here is a spreadsheet with about 30 ideas of what to post. And it's broken up into 5 different categories, or 5 different buckets, as I like to say. The first being local real estate. So this might be a picture of your clients. You might be, just other local real estate market information that's relevant. The second bucket is national real estate. So maybe it's links to articles that you find are really interesting, things that are happening in the market nationwide. Local and community. One of the things I love about agents is you guys know all the ins and outs of your community and neighborhoods, right? You know the best place to get a cup of coffee, the best place to get a glass of wine. Have you noticed I like wine? All those ins and outs, right? So that's some great information that you could post. Personal interests, home and design, before and after staging photos. To be honest, the way a lot of agents and brokers use this is they'll print it up, and when they're sitting down to schedule some of their content or think about their content for the week ahead, they've got this as inspiration right in front of them. So how to really rock your content strategy. You know, I could give a whole talk just about content, but I want to touch a little bit on it today because it's one thing to think about social media and what platform should I be on and how often should I post. But to be honest, the way you stand out in 2017 isn't just posting a lot on Facebook. It's thinking about how can you create unique content. How can you create content that tells the story of what it feels like to work with you? And so the way we think about this is if you're an agent or broker, there's a lot of benefit in thinking about what type of pillar content can you create. And by pillar content are pieces of content you've invested a little bit of time, money, and energy in. Maybe it's blogging, maybe it's video, maybe it's Facebook Live content. And then how do you take that one piece of pillar content and slice and dice it and repackage it and repurpose it in a number of different ways? So for example, every week we publish a blog post. That blog post also becomes a video. That blog post also gets cut up into 6 or 7 or 8 different graphics that gets shared on Instagram over the course of a few weeks. It gets broken up into 3 or 4 different Facebook posts, 10 or 15 tweets, a Snapchat story, an Instagram story. And by the way, I don't think you have to be everywhere. As an agent or broker, I don't think you have to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Pinterest and every platform that's out there. But the agents and brokers that are really maximizing social media, one of the big things they're doing is they're thinking about content and how can they repurpose it and slice and dice it. And by the way, I don't mean just taking one thing and blasting it everywhere, right? That's kind of the spray and pray model. But being a little bit more intentional about how we do that. And the reason why I'm sharing this today is because when you invest in creating great content, the leads you get from great content are so much better. See, when you start blogging consistently, or creating unique video consistently, or start creating unique Facebook Live content consistently, and you're giving valuable information, what will happen is you will have people who reach out to you on Facebook or email, or they'll run into you at the grocery store and they'll say, I see you everywhere. I feel like I know you. I feel like you're in my head. And those are the type of leads that are ready to act right away, not 12 months from now. And so having not just a social media strategy, but a content strategy is super important. And I want to share with you a few tools of how to create content. Canva.com is one of my favorite tools. I mentioned a second ago, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if you're not a graphic designer, maybe you're just a solo agent in the room and you're wearing multiple hats, so time is of the essence, Canva.com is a great tool. There's a free version, there's also a paid version, and you can create graphics for Facebook and your other social media platforms. We use this for all of our Facebook ads. There's even templates for flyers and postcards as well. Video, right? We can't talk about Facebook and not talk about video. People spend 5 times more time with video than any other piece of content on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook right now and you're scrolling through, you're probably seeing a lot of video. When it comes to video, Facebook loves to share with you video, but have you noticed that they love to show you video that lives on Facebook? And what I mean by that is if you're creating video content, you're probably also putting that content on YouTube. But when you share that YouTube link, generally speaking, you're not going to get a lot of likes, comments, and engagement. So a tip I'll give you when it comes to videos, if you're doing any kind of video, maybe you're doing quick video with your phone, you're doing Videolicious video, maybe you're hiring a professional videographer to work with you, take the time to not only upload it to YouTube, but also upload it directly into Facebook. That small thing can make a really big difference. Now, something else to consider when it comes to video is that most people on Facebook are watching video with the sound off. right? I think we've all done that. In fact, close to 80% of all people never listen to a video. So it's important that you have captions on your video. Any content that you're creating with video, have captions. And what you're seeing here, this is just a couple screenshots from our weekly vlog. We started a weekly video blog series early in the year, first week of January. It's the Get Social Smart show, where I do 2 or 3 minutes of quick tips. And what we found makes a big difference is not just having video content, but having captions. And so one of my favorite resources for this is a website, and the link is right up here at the top of the slide, rev.com, rev.com. Rev.com is an awesome resource for video. And what you can do with rev.com is take your video, upload it to rev.com, and they charge you $1 a minute to create captions. And so if I have a 3-minute video, it costs me $3 to get a file that has all the captions or the subtitles for that video. They send it to me within a few hours. I go to my Facebook business page, and now I have 2 files. I have my captions file, and I have my video file. And Facebook allows me to upload both of those instantaneously. And so then what happens? Well, once it's live on Facebook, if someone's scrolling through, they'll see the words at the bottom of the video. So if you've ever wondered how to do that quickly and easily, maybe you don't have a video editor, rev.com is an awesome resource for that. There's also live video on Facebook. I'm sure we've all seen Facebook Live. Facebook Live has really taken the world by storm, as well as live streaming. And live streaming is nothing new by any means. It's just really come to the forefront, especially in 2017. You know, what's exciting about Facebook Live is a few things. First of all, it allows you to broadcast live and in real time and in the moment. And the reason why I love Facebook Live, especially for real estate, is because as much as we all know how important video is, a lot of us, and I say us because I'm included in this, we don't do video as much as we want to do video because we don't like how we look, we don't like how we sound, we don't know how to do it right, we're not sure how to edit it, and so then we don't do it at all, right? And Facebook Live allows you to be live and in the moment. And the great news about that is that it doesn't have to be perfect because it's live. So you can broadcast live from your mobile device for your personal profile, your business page, a group. You can also now broadcast from your desktop, from your laptop. So maybe you want to do a weekly Facebook Live where you're talking about the market. You can do that right from your desk, where you're sharing 2 or 3 quick tips about what's happening in the market. If you're looking for a creative way to get more engagement, to get more exposure on Facebook without spending a lot of money, I can tell you right now in 2017, it's Facebook Live. Facebook is spending an inordinate amount of time, money, and resources encouraging you, wanting you to go on Facebook Live. And you might have noticed when you're on Facebook, you typically start to see videos, and especially Facebook Live, more than you see any other type of content. Now, often when I talk about Facebook Live, I get the question of what in the heck would I actually talk about on Facebook Live? So we created a free cheat sheet. There's a link right up here on the screen. It's katyliance.com/Facebook Live download. And that'll download you a cheat sheet, if you will, of 30 ideas of what you could actually talk about on Facebook Live. But we're seeing agents and brokers using this to share content, to share information, to give a sneak peek of an open house, of course with their client's permission. But the whole idea here when it comes to content is coming from a place of abundance, not scarcity, right? The old model used to be, well, let's not share. We don't want to give away our best secrets. But guess what? Nobody can be you. And just like anybody could write an article about the top 5 ways to get their home ready for the market, nobody could write it or say it or do a video like you would, because people are hiring you and your personality and your experience. So make 2017 the year you go live. And I want to challenge all of you, because I'm sure there's some of you thinking, I would never do this. I don't know what she's talking about. But for those of you who've never gone live before, I encourage you to go live. Go live here in Vegas and tag me in your post. Say, hey, this crazy speaker, Katy Lance, told me to do this. I would be happy to take a peek and to encourage you and to be that voice of encouragement if you decide to go live. So go live. Okay, another big tip I want to give you here when it comes to social media, especially Facebook, is think beyond the now, right? Think beyond the here and now. And so what I mean by this is thinking beyond what you're posting today or tomorrow. Now, this doesn't mean set it and forget it. This doesn't mean automate everything, but really getting into a consistent schedule when it comes to especially Facebook. And one of the big tips I can give you is to batch your content. Batch your content. So, the way I think about it when it comes to video, if I'm going to do my hair and makeup and sit down and do one video, I'm going to do 4 or 5. right? If I'm going to sit down and schedule one post for Facebook, I might as well schedule 3 or 4. And so one of the things we teach in our academy is, again, not just thinking about the here and now, but thinking about the next 3, 5, 7 days. And I don't mean scheduling weeks in advance or months in advance, but thinking about, maybe Friday's Fun Friday, Throwback Thursday, Market Update Monday, Flashback Friday. The key here is thinking ahead, because again, consistency counts. And when you think ahead and you've got a plan and you've got a schedule, then it allows you to be live and in the moment, right? So if you're thinking about time and how much time this should take, one of the things we recommend is setting aside time once or twice a week where you're scheduling out some of this content and you're creating some of that content. And then throughout the week, looking at your Facebook list and connecting and engaging with people in a really intentional way. So what's the best time of day to post to Facebook? It depends. One of the big tips I'll give you for those of you with a business page is look at your insights. Your insights are a free tool Facebook has given you, and when you go to your insights, there's a button that says posts. When you look at that post button, you'll see a graph that looks like this. And this graph will show you people who like your page and when are they most active on Facebook. So for us, we typically get a spike around 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. So we typically schedule a lot of our content around 9 and 6. But for you, it might be 8 a.m., it might be 8 p.m., it might be lunchtime. Looking at your insights can make a big difference. What about what type of posts work best? Well, we already touched a little bit on this when it comes to video and photography and graphics. But again, looking at your insights, when you go to your insights and look at your posts, you'll see this long list of everything you've posted. But what some people don't realize, you can actually sort that list by engagement. So you can see which posts actually got the most likes, clicks, comments, and engagement. And then post more content like that. One tip I'll give you when it comes to content on Facebook, keep it short and simple. We like to go on, right? And at least I know I do. Have you ever gone on Facebook and you've seen someone has written this really long post and you have to click that button that says see more? If you're like me, or like a lot of people, sometimes we don't click see more, right? So keep it short, keep it simple. Let's talk a little bit about Facebook advertising. Now, we could do probably a whole conference just about Facebook ads, but I want to give you a few tips. How many of you are running Facebook ads right now? Okay, a fair amount of you. So lead generation with Facebook ads, there's a lot of opportunity. One of the first things I'll recommend if you have a Facebook business page is boost some of your posts, right? And the advice I will give you is boost posts that have to do with your business, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, if you have a photo of yourself and a client popping that bottle of champagne and you post it to your business page, boost it by $5 or $10 because you want a lot of people to see that. If you have a new listing and you put up 5 or 10 of your best photos and you put them into a photo album, boost it. And you can boost for as little as $5. You can spend more than that depending on your budget. I recommend boosting for a few days. Typically 3 to 5 days is kind of the magic number we found. And obviously work within your budget. So for some of you that might mean $20 to $25 a post. That might mean $5 a post. When you boost something, what you're doing is you're putting it in the news feed for more people. So you can boost that to people who like your page and their friends, or you can get really targeted. And you can say, I just want to boost this to people between the ages of 30 to 45 who make over $150,000 a year, who work for Facebook, who live within these 3 zip codes. And that type of advertising can be really effective. So starting with boosted posts, but I will say the real magic when it comes to Facebook ads is using Facebook's ad manager. When you use Facebook Ad Manager, you can really do much more targeting, much more effective lead generation. One of the things that makes a difference with that is using landing pages. So a big mistake I see a lot of agents and brokers do is they will post a Facebook ad, and the link they use is just a link to their website. And the problem with that is when I go to your website, there's 27 different things I could click on, right? But using a specific landing page can make a really big difference. And there's lots of great resources for that. We use leadpages.net. Leadpages is a great source, but there's also some great resources obviously within the real estate space. Some of you might use Agent Formula, some of you might use Cloud CMA, some of you might use SmartZip. There's lots of great products out there to create landing pages. Custom audiences as well. So some of you may not realize this, but you can actually go into Facebook Ad Manager and create custom audiences that you can then advertise to. If you have an email database, you can actually download that email database, upload it up into Facebook, and then run ads just to people who are on your email marketing list. right? You can also go in and create specific custom audiences. So maybe you want to create a custom audience for first-time home buyers, or people who are renters, or for luxury property owners. And there's a lot of value in doing that, of taking the time to create a few specific audiences, and then when you're ready to place your ads, you already have your audiences ready to go. When it comes to Facebook ads, start small, right? Start with $5 or $10. I have to tell you right now, when it comes to Facebook ads, you have to test and try again. I have literally spent tens of thousands of dollars, probably a lot more than that, on Facebook ads over the past few years. And you have to be willing to rinse and repeat. One tip I'll give you also is you can actually install what's called the Facebook Pixel. Now, depending on what type of website you have, if you go to facebook.com/business and log into Facebook with your account, Facebook will actually give you a long line of code. It's called the Facebook Pixel, which you can then put onto your website. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, let me give you an example. Have you ever been on Amazon and you clicked on a pair of shoes, but you didn't buy those shoes, and then you go to Facebook and those shoes follow you everywhere you go? Well, the same thing can happen with your ads. And one of the ways to do that relatively inexpensively is to use what's called the Facebook Pixel. So you go to facebook.com/business, which, by the way, facebook.com/business is a great resource that Facebook's put together in general for Facebook advertising and training. And you can take that code, put that on your website, so when someone goes to your website and then they go to Facebook, they start to see your ads along with those pairs of shoes everywhere they go. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's next when it comes to social media. Looks like I've got about 7 or 8 more minutes here. So I want to talk a little bit about Instagram. Instagram by far is one of the fastest growing social media platforms. It was purchased by Facebook a few years ago for more than $1 billion. And Instagram is changing dramatically. There's really 4 parts of Instagram right now. There's Instagram Live, which is like Facebook Live. It allows you to go live and in the moment. There is the regular news feed within Instagram, photos and videos. There's also Instagram Stories, which allow you to connect in real time. And there's also Instagram advertising and analytics and business pages. There's a lot that's happening when it comes to Instagram. One tip I'll give you when it comes to Instagram is to think beyond the listing photo. Instagram is a very pretty platform. It's a very aspirational platform, right? So instead of thinking about the front of the house, thinking about what are the pretty, interesting, and unique qualities that you could highlight with a home. So maybe it's the front door, maybe it's the beautiful crown molding, maybe it's the backyard view. And a big tip I'll give you when it comes to Instagram, as well as Facebook, when you're talking about your listings, think beyond the facts, right? What are the facts? The facts are 4-bedroom, 2-bath, open Sunday 1 to 4, come on by. Those are the facts. They can find that anywhere. But the story is, what does it feel like when you walk through that front door, right? And so just thinking a little bit more about the story behind your listings, whether it's a small condo, whether it's a beautiful luxury home, but thinking beyond that listing photo. And one of the values when it comes to Instagram, especially now with Instagram Stories and also Snapchat, which we're going to talk about in a second, is Instagram Stories and Snapchat allows you to tell what I call the story behind the story. So for those of you who haven't seen Instagram Stories or Snapchat, Instagram Stories allows you to take a quick photo, a quick 10-second video, and to do this throughout your day, it loops it together and creates a 24-hour piece of content. And you can do this with Instagram Stories, you can do this with Snapchat. And I remember first hearing this and thinking, oh my gosh, I spent so much time and energy on creating content. Why would I ever want to create something that disappears in just 24 hours? And what we're seeing with Instagram Stories and Snapchat is that agents and brokers are able to tell the backstory, right? We all love reality TV. We all love that story behind the story. One of my good friends, Katie Clancy, who's also part of our academy, she's a broker in the Boston area, and she told me recently at a conference, she said, Katie, if people want to see the glossy version of my life, they'll go to Facebook, right? Where everything's perfect, right? It's kind of the highlight reel of my life. But if they want to hear the real deal and get kind of a sneak peek behind the scenes, it's Snapchat or Instagram Stories. And so I just want to share with you what an Instagram story looks like. This is from a few weeks ago. That's me. That's on our front porch. Happy Sunday. This is our kids in our court. We're very fortunate. We live in a court where all the kids are about the same age, and we actually know our neighbors, which is really exciting. And we've got a basketball hoop, so we're playing basketball in the court. Later that day, I was at San Francisco Airport. I spent a lot of time at SFO, so there was a quick Instagram there. And then I was in Vegas. I've been in Vegas a lot this year. But I'm sharing this with you just to show you what an Instagram story looks like. It's small snippets, again, kind of telling the story behind the story. And what we're seeing with agents and brokers who are using Instagram stories and Snapchat is that they're looking at their life as content, and they're sharing moments throughout their day. So maybe they just had a meeting with a great client, maybe they just got off the phone, and they realized, those questions that I just answered, that can be really relevant to share. And so they'll do a few quick snaps or a few quick Instagram stories in their car or as they're out and about. What's interesting about both these platforms, Instagram stories and Snapchat, is that it's smaller. It's a lot like how Facebook was like in 2009 or 2010, right? For those of you who've been on Facebook a long time, you know what I mean. It's like this small little platform. So it's a little bit more intimate. It's a little bit, a smaller platform, and it's a great way to connect with other people. So why am I talking about Snapchat also? I kind of giggle when I say this, because if you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago if I would be on a stage talking to agents and brokers about how to use Snapchat, I probably would have thought you were crazy. Because my opinion of Snapchat back then was that it was for kids sharing inappropriate things. But Snapchat has really evolved in a lot of ways. And just to share with you really quick some of the things that are happening with Snapchat, Snapchat users spend between 25 to 30 minutes on the app each and every day. 41% of the users are between the ages of 18 to 34. Especially important if you're thinking about connecting with millennials, connecting with first-time home buyers. An interesting statistic here, twice as many 18 to 34-year-olds watched the presidential debates on Snapchat than watched it on TV. So again, what we're seeing is agents and brokers who are sharing a little bit of that story behind the story. And I've got some great friends who are really active on Snapchat, and I always ask them, it's like, what's the ROI? Are you actually getting business from this? And the ones who are getting business, I've asked them, well, how are you getting business from this? One of the biggest ways agents and brokers are getting business from Snapchat isn't necessarily from clients that they're meeting on Snapchat. Interestingly enough, it's from the other agents they're connecting with all over the country and all over the world. Because Snapchat is still a relatively small platform, especially for real estate. So you may only be connected to 50 or so people on Snapchat, whereas on Facebook you have 1,000 friends. But because it's that smaller network, it's a great source for especially referral business when it comes to social media. So I'm close to wrapping up here today, but my last few points that I want to mention, we talked a lot about Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, different social media platforms. We talked a lot about content. As much as I love social media and technology, like I said in the beginning, there's nothing that replaces this. And where I see a big opportunity for agents and brokers is to take the online offline, right? There's nothing like a handwritten card. Would you agree? Right? My mom taught me well. Every time it was Christmas or our birthday, we had to sit down and write our thank you notes. And especially in this day and age where we are all binging and buzzing and notifications and we're all multitasking, there's something very intentional about taking the time to write a card. I don't know about you, but every day I go to my mailbox, I grab my mail, I walk back to my kitchen, and I stand by the trash can. And I throw out the junk, I put the bills aside for my husband, he gets to deal with those. And if there's anything else, like a handwritten card, there's that feeling of, oh, what's this? Because for someone to take the time to find a card, find your address, get a stamp, write it out, and then actually mail it, it's pretty amazing in this day and age. So as you're thinking about social media, and you're thinking about this conference, and you're going to get lots of great ideas here at this conference, and you're thinking about how do I really implement Facebook or some of the things we're talking about, one tip I can give you is take the online offline. When you're on Facebook and you're looking at your client list or you're looking at your noisy news feed and you see it's someone's birthday, you could be one of the 50 people that writes on their wall, HBD, happy birthday. Or you could be one of the 1 or 2 people that calls them or sends them a card or flowers or does something different. I mentioned in the beginning there's a lot of value in surprising and delighting people. If you think back to my story I shared in the beginning of how Virgin America tweeted me, surprise and delight. And that's how we stand out from the competition. So as you go back to your offices, you go back home, you're soaking in all this goodness, be intentional. Remember, without a strategy, you're just throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks. Thank you so much.